my friends. Welcome to MJ Hobby Corner. Happy New Year to everyone. This will be my first New Year's video. So I want to give you guys a little bit of an update what's happening on the craft bench. Okay, this video is just going to show the finished components. I do have a scratch builder monthly that is going to be dedicated strictly to these builds, and these are World War II vehicles. They are being constructed for a game that someone requested on the channel, Kentucky Poor Boy, that's their screen name, and they requested if I could do a video on Combat HQ by Jim Bambra, and that is a World War II based rule set, and this person wanted to see that that game being played, an example of that game being played. Well, I don't have very many World War II miniatures, and that is a rule set. I do have books for that rule set in my collection, and so that is a game that I eventually wanted to play, so I decided to make my own little World War II top-downs in order to play that game. So let's look through these. Top-downs are normally used when you're playing hex war games, and usually a top-down is a two-dimensional piece. I used to make them on Microsoft Paint and then print them out, but there came a time when I wanted to represent my top-downs in a more three-dimensional way. Now, if you look at these markers from the side, look at that. It's like, oh, what the heck is that? It's nowhere near a Sherman, right? But when you look at it from the top down, that's where these models shine, right? This is a Sherman tank. And even when you look at it from, 45-degree angle, they still look good. You can still tell what it is. And so that's the concept behind these three-dimensional top-downs. Now, I used a little bit of green stuff to highlight the hatches, okay? And I still have to give this a wash. You can actually weather these. You can do a whole bunch of things. You can paint these just like minis. Now, the disadvantage to these, of course, if you look at them directly from the side, you're like, holy crap, that doesn't look like anything. But when you look at it from the top, that's the illusion, right? That's where all the detail is. And also from certain angles, you can still tell what it is. So these things actually do look good on the tabletop, and you can use these to experiment with a rule set before you actually commit to the miniatures. You can use these as your sole playing pieces, whatever you want. That is one Sherman. Here is another Sherman. Okay, and I made quite a few Shermans. Notice the flocking powder. And this is my coarse flocking powder, and I use it to decorate the bases a little bit. Here is a Sherman Firefly. Okay, and here is another Sherman. So this is a little Sherman platoon with the Firefly. And it's going to be 3 Shermans and 1 Firefly. That's the goal. And then we have this one. Now, this is an interesting one because this is the M18 anti-tank vehicle of World War II. And this is a very interesting vehicle because it is open top. Well, sort of. It is open top. There are certain areas that are open, and that's why I painted those areas lighter, so that you can actually see those areas kind of pop out. There is a machine gun there, and you can kind of see the helmets of the little crew in there, and I painted those a brighter green. So again, so they can stand out. That's not the actual color of the interior of that vehicle, but I do that so it pops out, and you can kind of see that, yeah, there is an open top to that vehicle. All right, so it's a very interesting vehicle, the M18, and again, when you look at it from top down, that's when you see the best details. So I have one M18. I have another one coming. This is the way they start. And if we look over here, I want to show this little area here. We see all the parts to a Sherman. These are all the parts that make one of these Sherman vehicles, top down. Okay, so we have the track system, we have the hull, we have some of the hatches, the turret, etc., etc. And I'm doing this. I did this exploding version because I took pictures of this, and in the scratchbuilder magazine that I'm writing up for this project, I'm going to be labeling each one of those parts and listing it in a little list so that people can see all the parts to the actual build. Okay, so that's really for the magazine purposes. And now I'm going to put all those together, and I'll have an additional Sherman. Okay, now this is one of my favorite, and now I'm starting the German vehicles. And notice when you look at this thing top down, it doesn't look bad. It looks like an actual model. And even again, if you look at it from a 45-degree angle, it does look okay, right? Especially from the front. So that's the whole concept of the top downs, is that the sort of the view that you're concentrating on is top down. And so these are, you know, interesting way of representing wargaming units on the tabletop. Okay, now this is another Sherman that's being made, and I'm gonna have a total of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Shermans, and then 2 of those will be Fireflies. So 2 of those will be the heavier Firefly version to give a little bit of support to the Allies, and then we have the anti-tank M18, which will also give some heavy support. Now for the Germans, we're going to have a couple of Panthers, and I'm also going to make a series of Stugs. Okay, and then I have one more German unit that I'll be making, and I'm not sure if that's going to be a Panzer IV or one of the earlier war versions of the Mark III. I don't know. I'll have to look at the scenario of Combat HQ to determine what, you know, which of the vehicles to make. Now, these top downs are, again, one of the advantages. I made all of these Shermans in one afternoon, including that German tank. So in 2 days, I can make 2 forces. Okay, these still need some painting, of course, and some washing and all that. So these take a lot less time to build than a traditional, you know, 3-dimensional model. I could very well build a Sherman with foam or clay or whatever it is, but it's going to take me a lot longer, especially the wheel and track assembly. So by doing them in top-down mode, I actually cut a lot of time, and I can make larger armies. Okay, so that's the advantage of the top downs. Here is a World War I Mark III, British Mark III. Very easy to build. And what I do for the bases is I use sandpaper, and that gives me the base, and then it gets glued on like that. And these particular tanks have a piece of cardboard down here, which elevates them, again, to give you that illusion of the, you know, of the tank. Okay, so that is a World War I version of the Mark III. And then we have a Shamond top down. And I'm actually going to do these hatches with a little clay, and basically that's it. That's all this tank is, you know, from the top down. So it is an interesting way of representing vehicle units, and you don't necessarily have to stop at vehicles. You can do troops. I'm going to be doing a more upgraded version of these troops with clay, and they're going to come out a little bit better, but these are all in cardboard, and then the little helmets are clay. So I'll use a little green stuff and kind of make some updated troops. Here's a machine gun nest, okay, being portrayed again in top down. And we also have fantasy. I've done fantasy top downs. Here is a sort of cavalry piece for a top down. We also have some goblins, and these use felt, right, to provide the base texture. We also have some humans. Okay, so we have a lot of variety, and these are old now, so I will probably come up with some kind of upgraded version of making these top downs. These are my fantasy ones, okay? So I wanted to show those. And there is also, you can also do sci-fi, you can do spaceships, you can do mechs, you can do a lot of things. The secret to this is to understand how a vehicle, you know, all the structures involved in a vehicle, which of those come first. This technique that I use is called layering. It is basically sandwiching a bunch of layers of cardboard and whatever other materials I'm using, and you have to determine which layer is you know, the lower layer and which layer is the higher layer. So for example, the turret is obviously the highest layer in this piece, and so you want to make sure your turret is above all the other layers. And that's the same with these Sherman tanks, okay? So basically that's it. And I'm going to be writing the project up in Scratch Builder Monthly. So those of you interested, if you have any interest in historical wargaming and you don't really have a big budget where you can collect miniatures right away for that theme, then top downs are a great way of playing, and you can do you can make top downs in a very three-dimensional way if you wanted to. So I'm going to provide that scratch builder on Wargames Vault, and if you guys want to support the channel, that's one way of doing it. And you can also just support with your views here on YouTube. As soon as I have the game ready, we will play the game. The version will be put up here on YouTube and on my Patreon, and that's it. As soon as I finish painting these and weathering them a little bit. So that's it, folks. We'll talk very soon. That is my first video for this year, and I'll see you very soon. More games coming this year and more scratch built projects for sure. All right. So have yourselves a good day, and I will continue to finish this little project. Thank you very much.